Hello there, I'm Koios, the Rōnin BeatMaker, and welcome to Lounge Rōnin. All things, everything. And on this episode, we're going to discuss Mavia, the warrior queen. And before we get into it, if you are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Now, let's get into it. This article was written January 22nd, 2017 by Natalia Klimczak. Mavia, a powerful warrior queen who struck fear in the hearts of ancient male rulers. A woman whose life isn't confirmed by any archaeological evidence is recognized as one of the most famous ancient Arab queens. Next to Zenobia of Palmyra, Queen Mavia is one of the heroines from the sands of the desert. Her story has only survived in song and oral traditions, but with this information, researchers have been able to reconstruct a probable version of her biography. The deserts that belonged to the Arab tribes were ruled by many unknown leaders. Stories about these forgotten kings and queens have been lost amongst the grains of sand. Many of their people were illiterate, so their tales couldn't be recorded. However, some of their memories have survived through folk songs and oral legends that were later written down. One such story is the legend of Queen Mavia, who was more powerful than many men and an inspiring personality for the ancient Arab women. A queen of deserts and oases. Her Arabic name was Mawaya, but she is known in the English language as Mavia. She was probably the daughter of Tukids, a man who lost the support of his Arab tribes and migrated to the northern parts of the Arabian Peninsula. His daughter, Maria, married al-Hawari, who was the king of the Tuka tribe. He ruled in 335 AD. Mavia became his co-regent as her tribe demanded a revolt against the Roman Empire. When al-Hawari died, the Roman Emperor Valens believed that it would be a simple task to conquer and Christianize the peoples of Mavia's tribe. However, Mavia, who inhabited Aleppo at the time, decided to withdraw from the city to the desert, greatly increasing her chances to defeat the enemy. Some researchers suggest that she could have been Christian by then, but there is no clear evidence to this. What's fascinating for me is that how many of these stories of incredible kings and queens incredible figures of antiquity are lost to time. And with that, their knowledge. And when you look at this, as this woman here, Mavia, this is a prime example of an individual of that time, of her time, who was able to adapt and evolve. And we tend to not give much credit, I feel, to women of antiquity, um, mainly because we're not given time and opportunity and the education to be presented with a lot of ancient women of antiquity. And I've covered several in past live streams, so please feel free to check them out. But I think it's important to point out these incredible women, whether they are of legend or of truth. But if you know, I love the saying, there's always a bit of truth in legends. And I think what's kind of beautiful about, these stories of these figures of antiquity is that their presence is maintained through these oral traditions and songs that really are the lifeline of staying connected to our ancestors, staying connected to our history, staying connected to our blood. So I think it's really important that we highlight these types of figures, male and female. Um, their story should be told, however convoluted or sporadic it may be. Here we have a marble bust, possibly representing Valens, the Roman emperor who wanted to conquer the tribes of Mavia and her lands. This supposition may be rooted in another legend, a tale of a meeting between Queen Mavia and a Orthodox monk, who spent some time with her and apparently converted her to Christianity. Roman writers doubted this story, however, suggesting that the legend of her conversion may have been created later. This means that Mavia was probably a pagan queen, which could most likely bode true. Considering the time period and the fact that at this time the Roman Empire was becoming a monolithic, monocentric religion, and they were pretty much going around converting polycentric religions. And paganism is in many ways a polycentric religion. I'm not an expert, just going from my basic knowledge. But I can see, why there could be this idea of her converting into Christianity, either to kind of add a little more credence to her story, or maybe it's possibly down to some sort of alliance. Perhaps we'll learn more as we continue forward with our article. Okay. Mavia's life mostly took place in the desert sands, on horseback, and in the battlefields. Apart from fights with the Roman Empire, she is also famous due to her rides in Phoenicia and Palestine. Her cavalry had terrifying power on the battlefield. It is said that Mavia rode a horse very well and was a remarkable fighter. Without any mercy, she defeated countless enemies who disrespected her for her gender. Many male rulers didn't respect her and hoped to conquer her lands easily in the beginning of her reign. But with time, she became a force to be reckoned with in the Mediterranean area. Now, this would be, instead of, taking masculine characters and replacing them with a female version, and we do that with a lot of our, Hollywood does that a lot with their films. They take female characters and they make them masculine, and it doesn't work. And they try to give them the masculine hero's journey and phenotype, and it never works. But here's a fascinating character by the name of Queen Mavia, who, with without the much information that they have about her, they could actually make a really fascinating show about this character, about this historical figure. The fact that she was a woman, she was a fighter, she was a warrior, she was a queen, she was able to withstand the Roman Empire. I mean, that's a pretty incredible character. Someone who deserves their time on the small screen so that they can actually get enough time to really tell this story and flesh it out. The problem is they would need to make sure that they get competent writers and directors who will focus more on telling a good story that is based within the confines of that time period and respects the time period and the culture and the religions and the attire. Then you'd have something really, really good. Otherwise, you'd get this, Marxist cultural garbage that they're pumping out. So, I think, and I've covered Emperor Nero's his mom. I did a live stream about the female gladiators of old, which is really, really fascinating. And his mom, man, she was a cruel, just she was like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones. Really, really fascinating woman. Um, there are really some fascinating female historical figures out there that I would love to see their stories told on on the screen. But they don't want to do that. They don't want to cover these type of characters. Instead, they want to race swap already established historical white figures and things like that. I don't mean to get off topic here a little bit, but at the same time, it's like how great would it be to get a all-star um, cast from the Middle East to do this incredible show about this um, female historical figure, and it just knocks it out of the park. And then, with something like that, a ripple effect where, it inspires more stories to be told of that area. It inspires, you know, more actors of that demographic to, or, more people of that demographic to be inspired to getting into filming. That's what's great about the film Shogun, or the TV show Shogun. It's an important film right or an important show right now because Japan is hurting right now with their population and their lack of nationalism. From my own personal, excuse me, perspective, anyone out there can totally correct me if I'm wrong in that regard. But I really think that we need more shows that really highlight the beauty of these many various historical figures, and do them justice, do them right, allow them to be told in a proper manner, and allow them to be told in a respectful manner, and in a manner that allows us as the audience to really enjoy it and to maybe do our own personal research, but to also inspire said communities. Um, that's why I'm hoping with Shogun that for Japan, it just inspires people of Japan to get into wanting to uh, be a part of their culture, learn about their culture, get into the filming industry for Japan. You look at what happened with Godzilla minus one. They took Hollywood to task. So I just think historical figures such as Queen Mavia would be really fun to see in the screen, and I think we should really give them their due diligence. Enough of a Rōnin rant. Let's get back into it. Alrighty, here we have the regions of the area of that time. Here we have the Roman Empire, Armenia. Oh, this is fascinating. Okay. Was she a real person? The task of finding primary historical references about Mavia isn't easy. Many of them are mixed with the stories of other rulers, including the legendary achievements of Zenobia of Pilmria. Thus, there are different theories about Mavia. According to Archaeological Magazine, quote, Deveris notes that the nomadic nature of the Saracens would leave little archaeological evidence. Thus, for Mavia's material world, you may have to think tents, not palaces, he says. In general, the material evidence for local Arab culture in this period is ephemeral and textual. They do not tend to write about themselves. The revolt didn't last long, and certainly didn't have any archaeological traces that I'm aware of. One could be hard put to date them unless they had a name on them, says Bauersruck. Islamic scholar Ifan Shahid believes that an inscription from AD 425 near Anasarar, Syria, references Mavia's contributions to local Christianity. The text praises a woman named Mavia and states that she built a matrium, a building in honor of a saint, for St. Thomas. Sahid holds that both the timing and the Lataria tone of the inscription fit with the warrior queen. Bauerrook counters with the assertion that the name Mavia is not all that uncommon. We do have people called Mawie in inscriptions of this time, but there's not the slightest reason to think that it's this Mavia, adds Deveris. Ifan Shahid, my friend, does not stretch the evidence because he so desperately wants Mavia to be a great Arab Christian queen. He speculates a lot, and sometimes those speculations become facts when he returns to them later. End quote. Researchers have analyzed hundreds of texts that could be about her, but there are no known precious artifacts that are connected to this mysterious queen. It is, however, believed that she died in Enisarar, east of Aleppo. Most researchers agree that her death took place in 425 AD, about a century after the death of Zenobia of Pilmer, another great female ruler who became a legend. So here is a picture of Queen Zenobia. Last Look upon Palmyre by Hubert Gustav Schmaus. Mavia is the second most famous Arab queen, only following behind Queen Zenobia. Searching for the semi-nomadic queen. Most researchers agree that Queen Mavia was a real person. She's believed to have been a strong ruler of the Arab world, who was one of the most influential women in ancient history of these lands. Yet, some of the stories about her sound like tales about Zenobia of Pilmar and were probably mixed up over the years. Both women are still recognized as powerful icons of the Arab world and in the history of the Middle East. Well, I know a lot of people tend to forget that, there were Arabs that were Christian in the Middle East. I know some people tend to forget that. But I think, even from a Christian standpoint, it would be a great story to be told. This Arab Christian woman, who became this incredible warrior queen. We need some solid representation about that. I apologize that the article was not up near the end. But I think you guys got the gist of what was being said. I will place the article down below, if that's something you are interested in. But we need more, we need to tell more stories about individuals like Queen Mavia. And I'll probably, cover Zenobia as well. That seems really interesting. We, and this is what I was kind of saying about earlier. Like, we Hollywood won't tell a story like her because, one, she's Arab, and two, she's a Christian. And right now in Hollywood, if you are a Christian, you are considered a heretic, which is very ironic and hilarious. But I digress. But when we have these incredible characters, historical figures of antiquity, we really need to take time and value and appreciate them. Mainly because we don't have that many. We don't have female figures of this kind of caliber around anymore. They don't make them like that. So I think for all of us out there, we have plenty of figures of historical figures, um, from the male history that from male historical figures that we can look up to and inspire and be impressed with. But and we don't have that anymore as much as of late. And same goes for women. We have to look to the past for great icons to learn from and to gain perspective. And I think it's important that I don't know how many other people out there are covering these minor historical figures of greatness who are female. But shout out to me. But I'm doing it mostly because I find these kind of stories fascinating and educational, and I like learning about these things. But I hope other people out there take interest and spread the word and start looking into some of these fantastical figures of antiquity, male or female. Doesn't really matter. Just take some time and look into them, because you might be surprised what you uncover. And just for us, with this little light dive into this woman, we get to learn that the as much as the Arab world's treatment of women currently is, can be debated. I'm not here to get into all the weeds right now. But it's clear that antiquity, Arab women seem to have more of a voice, more of an identity, more individuality. And that's something to be said, that we tend to look at the past as if they were, barbarians and uneducated and things like that. And maybe they may have been illiterate, but culturally, socially, um, technologically, they were highly intelligent. So we can't take that for granted. And I think that's something that's really important for us to understand when it comes to learning about these historical figures of antiquity. And I'll be covering many of them over the course of this week and more following. That these are really important people to learn from, and mostly learn about what it means to be human. We're tending to lose that mentality and perspective, especially when it comes to our history. We are taking these modern ideas and beliefs and criticisms and applying it to the past, and that just doesn't necessarily work. And you tend to end up rewriting or erasing history. And that's something that the communists do, or the victors. I guess it's a matter of perspective. But I highly recommend everyone out there, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. But really, you know, go out there and do some knowledge searching. Look up historical figures of your area. Learn a little bit about your area. Learn a little bit about your culture and heritage. These things are important for anyone, and for your religion. You know, I'm sure that there are a plethora of incredible female religious historical figures, but none of them get coverage. None of them get their due diligence, their support, their acknowledgement. And then you have to ask yourself, why are women not acknowledging these incredible female historical figures of antiquity? Why aren't they supporting them? Why aren't they acknowledging them? Why aren't they telling their stories? You gotta, as much as you want to hate on men and be critical of us, sometimes you're gonna have to look at women and ask yourself, well, why aren't you telling these stories? Why aren't you looking to the books to find these type of historical figures that you can relate to, that are part of your culture and heritage? And that's something that's kind of beautiful about watching international films and TV shows, is that they have a lot more of appreciation for their ancestors, their heritage, their history, and they try their best to present it on the screen, and let it be a character in the shows and films. And you will occasionally get that with Western films, but mostly if they're directed by foreign directors, or people who value that type of storytelling and imagery and cinematography. And we could get that on the big screen with these incredible characters. And it doesn't matter that there's only some scattered information about them. Their stories still need to be told and be acknowledged. But women like Queen Mavia or Zenobia, they don't challenge the narrative, even though they completely shatter this false feminist narrative and Marxist narrative that's been being sprouted since 2015, 2016. And they would destroy a historical figure like her. They would suppress her. They would not acknowledge her, because they cannot relate to a woman like that. And and this is not me trying to talk hate or vitriol or any of that kind of stuff. This is just observing the way our society behaves and interacts and treats historical figures, male or female. We don't really treat them with respect or consideration. Sometimes we do, but not always. And I think that with little characters, such as this woman, Queen Mavia, this is someone that I think many people could be inspired to listen to and learn about, even if it's just for a moment. But we do not invest in knowledge anymore. We invest in reaction. We invest in telling a lie. And we don't value folklore. We don't value oral traditions. We have them within our current confines of reality, but it's mostly for clickbait. It's mostly for reactions. So everyone out there, I highly recommend learn about your heritage, learn about your history, learn about the regions that you're from. Learn about the historical figures that shaped your culture, your heritage, your blood, and become inspired. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Lounge Rōnin. All things, everything. If you've made it this far and you've enjoyed what you've heard, please make sure to leave a comment with your thoughts below. And make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And shout out to my YouTubers, shout out to my Twitterers, shout out to the Rumblers. And I'll catch y'all next time. Stay positive, stay focused, stay true, and much love.